Imagine not being able to read the paper because your hands were shaking. Imagine not being able to read newsprint as your world faded to black. The National Federation of the Blind, Newsline, Indiana. With your host, Lee Martin, and co-host, Florence Myers-McSwine.
We want to welcome you to the National Federation of the Blind, Indiana Newsline show. And today we have some very special guests as we celebrate the Indiana Disability Awareness Month. And we'll talk more about that as we progress through our show. Today we want to talk about a little about the National Federation of the Blind Newsline. It's an audio information service that is provided to citizens that are print challenged, those that can't read conventional print, those that can't turn pages, individuals that generally are blind, visually impaired, those that are deafblind now have access to the service, those with certain forms of dyslexia, and individuals that just have mobility issues of turning pages qualify for this free service that's offered through the state of Indiana and also the Talking Book and Braille Library services. The National Federation of the Blind NFB Newsline service has great offerings, and we have over 500 different publications. 77 of those publications are magazines. For the first time, individuals have the opportunity to read their local newspapers, to read the national newspapers, to read international newspapers. All of these publications that seems frivolous to those that have sight and can access print through seeing. But for those of us that do not have it and have those challenges, this means the world to us. Wouldn't you say that much, Florence?
It certainly does, Lee.
So, Florence, tell us a little bit about the magazines that we have.
All right. Well, Lee, there's Indianapolis Monthly Magazine. That's a magazine that I read quite a bit. There's Popular Science Magazine, another magazine which I really enjoy reading. WebMD has a great magazine. There's a magazine for children called Stone Soup. Now, that magazine encourages children not only to read, but also to write stories, their own short stories. So I really I enjoy reading that as well, because the average age for that one is about 12 years old. So
yeah, they can write their own stories and send it in to the publisher and possibly have it published. So those are some of the things that we have offerings with the NFB Newsline. Pay attention to our commercials. A lot of that information is displayed.
If you or someone you know is visually impaired or print challenged, the National Federation of the Blind has a resource you need.
I am a CFP practitioner, and I happen to be blind. I rely on NFB Newsline to keep me current with Wall Street Journal and the Financial Times.
Hoosiers can hear Indiana magazines, circulars, national magazines, and information from across the globe. Learn more by calling 855-963-6476 or visit nfbnewsline-in.org. If you or someone you know is visually impaired or print challenged, the National Federation of the Blind has a resource you need.
Wow, I scored a touchdown when I found sports on NFB Newsline.
I enjoy reading TV guide listings on NFB Newsline.
Learn more by calling 855-963-6476 or visit nfbnewsline-in.org.
We are the nation's blind. We read NFB Newsline.
It's free.
welcome back to the National Federation of the Blind Newsline, Indiana. We have our special guest today from the Governor's Council for People with Disabilities, Ms. Brandy Dickerson and Ms. M. Mays. And welcome to the show.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
It's nice to be here.
Glad to be here.
Okay.
And M, you've also brought with you Quincy.
Yeah. Quinn is my service dog.
Now, Quincy's a service animal, correct?
Yeah.
And what type of service does Quincy provide for you?
She's medical alert and mobility assistance, so she alerts me to changes in my heart rate or blood pressure, as well as doing a lot of mobility-related tasks to just help me do things movement-wise or getting me around places that I wouldn't be able to do independently.
Okay. I have a question, but I won't ask it. I'll ask it off air.
Okay.
I don't want to make myself seem to be like I'm totally ignorant or something. So the Governor's Council for People with Disabilities, this is a very special month, and there's a campaign. So what is the campaign that's going on this month?
Be Cool We Are, hashtag Be Cool We Are, as what the campaign, just basically talking about disabilities and that we are all want to be treated like everybody else. I have cerebral palsy. I've had it my whole life, and a lot of people want to put labels on you for who you are. And I think sometimes when they find out you have a disability, they automatically put a stamp on you on what you can and cannot do. I work for Easter Seals. I've been working there for 3 years. I actually went through the VR many years ago, and now I work directly with them, and I help. I'm a job coach. I help them to keep their job. Easter Seals has been around for over 80 years. So basically, disability, this whole campaign is no matter what your disability is, you could be whatever you want to be, and to be treated like everybody else is what it comes down to. You know, I have a degree, I own my own condo, I've traveled the world. You know, you just can't always put a person in a box.
That's right. That's
And
right.
a lot of the things, the Governor's Council has been putting out a tip every day this month on how to interact with people with disabilities. Because a lot of people who are able-bodied or who don't have disabilities just don't know how to interact with people with disabilities. It makes them uncomfortable and they feel super awkward. So a huge part of the campaign this year has been teaching other people how to be cool and how to be themselves around people with disabilities.
Yeah, just being comfortable.
Yeah.
You know, around people with disabilities. That is a very important component.
Yeah.
That we both live with. We all live with up here on this stage. Being blind, you know, we have to be comfortable within our own skin, oftentimes to make other people comfortable as well. So, go ahead,
You know,
Florence.
in observance of March being Disability Awareness Month, you know, it just brings to mind, as far as I'm concerned, you know, every month to me is Disability Awareness Month, because every day gives me an opportunity to interact with someone, to educate someone on conditions, you know, because people have these preconceived notions about people with disabilities. They don't know what they don't know.
Yeah.
And it's always, you know, every day gives us an opportunity to let people know that we are no different than they are. We just may do things a little different. So it's great having you two on the show and, you know, and sharing with us the information concerning the Governor's Council for People with Disabilities and the things that they are doing this month.
Now, what is the mission of the Governor's Council for People with Disabilities?
To advance the independence, productivity, inclusion of people with disabilities in all aspects of society.
All aspects.
In all aspects.
I was almost there.
You got it right. You got it right.
And I'm also on the board. They nominated me to be on the board this year, and we had our meeting actually yesterday.
Congratulations.
So I'm excited to be on the board. We actually are going to be having a conference that will be coming up on November 17th to the 19th. And we also, on March the 24th, are going to have a film that will be at the Central Library here in Indianapolis at 2:30 p.m. If you want more information, you can call the Governor's Council at 317-232-770. I believe I have that correct.
So both of you guys were, well, you're involved in a video, right?
This year, I was not actually in the video. You still hear my voice at the very end. But this year, I actually did the photo shoot instead of doing the video. But I am in the video. You just hear my voice at the very end. So, but he is definitely in the video.
Yeah, I did the video and the photo shoot this year.
So, yeah, I'm in the video this year and enjoyed it.
Yeah.
And the campaign itself. So there's a lot of things that that we do as citizens with disabilities, and the Governor's Council for People with Disabilities really do a great job of getting their mission out into our community. And we'll be showing a portion of that video during our show. So individuals can see that. So at this point in time in our show, we're going to show the video, the Be Cool campaign video.
We have disabilities, and you're not sure how to act around us.
How to be when we're in the room.
Well, we're here to help.
The most important thing to remember
isn't the disability part. We are people.
We are people.
Just start by thinking, how would you feel if it was you?
Would you want to be passed over for a promotion?
Patronized.
Pitied, ignored.
When all you want to do is be treated like an equal?
Would you only want people to see your disability when they look at you?
I don't think so.
How should you be around us?
Be honest.
Be relaxed. Be funny.
Be respectful.
Be genuine.
Be yourself.
Just be yourself.
Be you.
just be cool, because as you can clearly see, we are.
Help us celebrate Indiana Disability Awareness Month.
Please show your support by sharing this video.
Okay, and that was a great commercial there, video with that information about the Governor's Council for People with Disabilities. Now, how did you guys, enjoy that filming of that? You did it last year.
Yes.
So what did you think about that? Was it a challenge for you?
It was trying to remember the lines that you were going to say. And so sometimes I think remembering and trying to relax, I think that's the biggest challenge.
I was going to say everyone on the actual campaign and who was helping in the process of making the video was absolutely great as far as trying to make the set as accessible as possible. And helping give us our lines kind of between individual taping segments and stuff like that. But the staying relaxed part was definitely challenging.
Yeah, and then you had to say it several times if you didn't say it in the correct way. I think for me, last year I noticed my voice was a little high. But I think when you're on stage and you're doing it, you get a little bit more critical of yourself is what it comes down to than others is what it comes.
Yeah, and what I liked about it too, it was very diverse.
Yeah, they did a great job.
Oh, yeah,
having
I
multiple
agree.
disabilities on there. So we're going to take a short pause, and we'll be right back to talk more about the Governor's Council for People with Disabilities and the campaign that they have going on this month. So stay tuned.
I'm Danny Wayne Beamer, Program Manager of the Elder Blind Program at the Will Center in Terre Haute, Indiana. I introduce the NFB Newsline to seniors in 13 southwestern counties in Indiana. I also utilize the NFB Newsline for my radio station public affairs shows. The NFB Newsline. Experience it today.
Learn more by calling 855-963-6476 or visit nfbnewsline-in.org.
We are the nation's blind, and we read NFB Newsline.
If you or someone you know is visually impaired or print challenged, the National Federation of the Blind has a resource you need.
I use NFB Newsline when reading Hammond Northwest Times.
Using NFB Newsline, I read the Christian Science magazine.
Dad, you read Jerusalem Post too.
Learn more by calling 855-963-6476 or visit nfbnewsline-in.org.
Live the life you want. Read NFB Newsline.
It's free.
Well, welcome back to our show. And Brandy and M, I know that with the Disability Awareness Month, there's a lot of things going on and initiatives that the Governor's Council is doing right now. And you mentioned earlier, M, about the 31 tips that they're posting to assist or to educate people on disabilities. So can you give us some of the tips that they've already displayed?
Yeah, so they've been posting the tips on the Indiana Governor's Council Facebook and Twitter. And some of the tips this week have been things like talking about language that you should use around people with disabilities. So saying words like person with a disability instead of, what were some of the words that they said not to use? Instead of like special needs or wheelchair bound, use person in a wheelchair. Things like that, just kind of teaching people how to use language around people with disabilities in a way that feels comfortable for people with disabilities, as well as tips like don't touch people's mobility aids,
don't speak louder.
Yeah.
Especially with just, sometimes someone that is visually impaired, they'll start speaking louder to the person.
Yeah, I've noticed that. And doing the third party conversation, what does he want? What does she want? Or what does she want? Instead of talking directly to the person,
There's others, you hear a lot about handicapped and, it's more accessible.
Yeah, accessible.
Accessible with parking. Don't park in areas, park between the lines if you do have a handicap.
I think that that's one that people don't realize are the lines between accessible parking spaces. I'll even see people with accessible tags parking in the lines in between spaces. And it makes it so that people who use wheelchairs actually can't get in and out of their cars, especially if they have a lift. So for people who can either throw their chair over their body from their passenger seat or who can pull it out of their back seat, which is generally what I do with my chair. When I use a chair, I can just pull it out of my back seat. But for people who don't have any capability to stand, they will have ramps that come out of their car. And if you park in those line spaces, they can't get those ramps.
And it's great that you bring that out because a lot of people aren't aware of that.
Yeah.
And now I know that, with the initiatives also, you are doing other programs. They're also offering supplies to people who may want to participate in the Disability Awareness Month, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we have, I believe it's, you can quote me, it's Indiana Awareness.
Yeah, IndianaDisabilityAwareness.org.
There you are, sorry.
Repeat that again.
IndianaDisabilityAwareness.org. And you can sign up there to get a kit mailed to you. I actually got my kit like last week. And it has a couple of posters that you can put up different places, and then a really awesome little like information booklet or zine with a bunch of information about the campaign and about how to interact with people with disabilities in there for people to read or look at.
And Easter Seals has definitely, since they saw my bookmark that I had, they've actually put me on the elevator. So every time I'm on the elevator, I see myself. And they've actually put it in their newsletter. I've been in the newsletter like 3 times this year. I noticed with the photo shoot, I've had people come up to me and say, I may want your autograph. My cousin has been joking, which I still haven't sent her a bookmark, which I will be doing soon. But it's not, I mean, yeah, it's enjoyable doing the photo shoot and the video. We're here more for, yeah, we may joke about it, about ourselves, but it's more to get the word out is really what it comes down to. We may be a little sarcastic in the remarks, but I think it's sometimes when you're in the spotlight, you kind of...
Yeah, well, you're definitely on the spotlight in those elevators.
That is true. That is so true.
And, it's such a great campaign because people just often don't know how to address a person with a disability. And So the video itself, just to relax and be cool and just treat a person with some normalcy, it goes a long way.
I do want to point, the one thing about my cerebral palsy is I can sometimes hide it. I do have a limp, but if I focus, I could actually walk straight. So there's been times I've been able to hide it, which has been nice, but then sometimes when I open up about my disability, that label will automatically assume is like, oh, she can't do this, she can't do that. I actually worked in the hospital and found out someone had CP. I was about a month before I was leaving that she had cerebral palsy. I had no idea that she was a doctor. Mm-hmm. And she worked right beside me, and I had no clue. And so I think a lot of it has to do with a lot of the stereotypes. Mm-hmm. And the biggest thing about this campaign is, to treat us like everybody else. We can do, whatever you want to do. So if you want to go skydiving, go do it. I know last year I said I bungee jumped, which...
you still haven't skydived.
Yeah, I still got to skydive. But I definitely have to skydive. Yeah. So yeah, I definitely do. So
I think that's an important point, that people with disabilities look a lot of different ways, even within the same condition. And as somebody who has a pretty wide difference between my good days and my bad days, it's interesting to notice the way that people interact with me differently when it's just my feeding tube versus my feeding tube and a service dog, or a feeding tube and a service dog in a wheelchair. The more things you add, or the more visibly disabled you are, the more people make assumptions about what you can and can't do, which is harmful for people with disabilities, and it's harmful for people with visible disabilities, and it's harmful for people with invisible disabilities. Because they're just not seen as actually disabled, or might not get the accommodations or medical care or things that they need, because it's not as clear to everybody else that they're disabled. So people make assumptions both directions.
And I do have to state, I do have a learning disability, and I've had to have more time on my test. And so I've had to ask in the past, and back in school, and even in college, just having a little bit more time. And that's basically really what it comes down to. Each level a person has of what they can and cannot do. And sometimes you have assistive technology. If you're not able to perform that activity, you can use assistive devices to help you. And Easter Seals actually provides that. as well. They have different departments from autism to day program to transportation, assisted devices for transportation. They do a variety of different things at Easter Seals.
And there's a lot of protections out there as well that people may not be aware of for persons with disabilities, you know, through the ADA. You know, a lot of agencies throughout the state of Indiana, you know, like the Indiana Civil Rights Commission, the EEOC. There's, you also have vocational rehabilitation services and, you know, Easter Seals, Centers for Independent Living, just a plethora of information out there for individuals. But the Governor's Council for People with Disabilities, it has a very essential role in our community. And we just want to thank you guys for just being the spokespersons for the Governor's Council for People with Disabilities here in the state of Indiana.
Yeah, I'm happy to.
So we're going to take a short pause and come back with the conclusion of our show. Time flies by fast. And we'll be right back after our commercial break.
The National Federation of the Blind knows that blindness is not the characteristic that defines you or your future. Every day we raise the expectations of blind people because low expectations create obstacles between blind people and our dreams. You can live the life you want. Blindness is not what holds you back.
Well, we've had a great show. We had an opportunity to speak with Em and Brandy from the Governor's Council for People with Disabilities. And both of you, thank you for being our guests today. And do you have any departing words for our audience?
Definitely go to the hashtag for more information. Hashtag Be Cool We Are. And
yeah.
It's had over 100,000 hits.
Yes, over 100,000.
Yeah, the videos had over 100,000 hits.
Yes.
So you're really going to be popular.
And just remember to be yourself. The whole hashtag Be Cool We Are thing is kind of talking about just because you're disabled or have a disability doesn't mean that you're any different than anybody else, and people should just be relaxed and be cool and be themselves around people with disabilities.
And that's basically the theme of it all.
Okay, so just take a deep breath and relax and be cool, huh?
Yes,
Okay.
definitely.
All right then. So we want to thank you all for joining us once again on the National Federation of the Blind Newsline show. Stay tuned for us and our future shows. And thank you very much for your viewing of our programs.
The National Federation of the Blind, Newsline, Indiana. For more information, go to nfb-in.org or call 855-963-6476. That's 855-963-6476. The National Federation of the Blind encourages you to live the life you want.